Hello BookTube, my name is Elizabeth and welcome back to the Owlery. Today is day 27 of Vlogmas and I am bringing you my end of the year survey. So this is just a huge list of questions that I got from a blog site last year. A couple of booktubers did it as well. I don't remember the name of the blog, but I'll link it down below if I can find it in case you guys are wondering. And there are a bunch of questions, so let's go ahead and get started. The first question is how many books have you read this year? And I've read 135, and how many of those are rereads? And I have done 0 rereads this year, and as you guys may or may not know, I don't reread books. It's just something that I don't have time for. It's something that I'm not interested in. I never reread books, so yeah. The genre that you've read the most from is fantasy. The best book of 2016. This is a really, really hard choice, but tomorrow I'm going to be giving you guys my top 10 books of 2016. I will say a couple of the ones on the list are kind of like obvious, and that is Heartless by Marissa Meyer and A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. A book you thought you would love but didn't, and that one for me is And I Darkened by Kirsten White. This is like a historical novel. It's a retelling of the story of Vlad the Impaler, but it's told as if Vlad the Impaler was a woman, and so I was just so stoked about it. I had so many expectations. I was really looking forward to this. Everyone gave it amazing reviews, and I just did not like it. The most surprising book you read, either in a good way or a bad way, and that for me was The Call by Peter O'Goolan. I had like no expectations for this book whatsoever. It's one of the books that got a lot of votes for the Young Adult Booktube Awards, and so I read it, just out of curiosity, and it actually surprised me. It was a really, really great read. A book you pushed the most people to read, and I think I pushed the most people to read This Is Where It Ends by Marjorie Nyenkap. It's probably not how you pronounce her name. I've heard it that way a little bit. But anyway, this is a fantastic book, and I read it right at the beginning of the year, and I have been pushing people to read it like nobody's business. It's a great heart-wrenching read about a school shooting. It takes place over the course of 53 minutes from the perspective of several different people who have a connection to the shooter in some way, and it was just amazing, and I cried, and it was just really, really good. The best series I started this year is probably The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. Another really surprising read for me. As the only book in the series I've read is The Raven Boys, so I'm really hoping to read the rest of the series in 2017, but it was a great first book in a series. The best sequel that I read this year is definitely Gemma by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. The best series ender, hands down, was Winter by Marissa Meyer. My favorite new author has to be Tahara Mafi. I don't know why it took me so long to read the Shadowy series by Tahara Mafi, but I'm really, really glad that I did this year. The best book from a genre that I don't normally read is The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. This is an adult mystery, and I really don't read adult books, and I really don't read mysteries that often either, but this book was really good. The most action-packed / unput-downable book would have to be The Jewel and the White Rose by Amy Ewing. I read both of these books in a day for each one, and they were just fantastic. So much stuff going on, and I literally could not put it down. Next question is a book you were most likely to reread, and like I said, probably none of them. There are a couple books that I read this year that I think I might have to reread before the next book in the series comes out, but usually I just look it up on Recaptains and I read the recap of the book that they post on there. If you guys are like me and you don't like reading or rereading books, recaptains.co, I believe, is the address for. I'll link it down in the description so you guys can find it, but it's like really, really good, and I love the Recaptains website. The next question is my favorite cover of the year, and it's really, really hard for me to pick just one cover that I like over all of them, but I did do a video of my top 10 favorite covers that I read this year, and I'll link it in the eye if you guys want to check it out and see all of my favorite covers from 2016. The most memorable character that I read this year is probably going to be Kath from Heartless, and her story arc and her personality and the way that she changed throughout the book was just so, I loved it. I don't want to say it was so good because she went basically from a good person to a bad person, because it's the retelling of how the Queen of Hearts became the Queen of Hearts, and but it was just a great book, and I think Kath's personality stood out for me a lot. It might also be because I literally just finished reading that book a couple of weeks ago, but I really think that she's a great character, really great, memorable character, and she had an amazing story arc, and the way that her character progressed over the book was epic. The most thought-provoking book that I read this year is All We Have Left, and I don't remember the name of the author, but of course I always put the book cover here. But All We Have Left is about two people. One person who is living in New York. She is a Muslim in 2001 during the 9/11 attacks, and she finds herself in one of the towers on the morning of September 11th. And the other perspective is a girl whose brother died in the September 11th attacks, and she was born, or she was like a baby when September 11th happened. So she's living in, our time period, having to deal with the effects of her parents losing a child and how, just society has progressed since September 11th. And it kind of goes back and forth between the two characters, and seeing the one character who's Muslim in the Twin Towers on the morning of 9/11 was just so thought-provoking and emotional, and it just gave me so many feelings and thoughts that I haven't had since the morning of 9/11. And it just, so many feelings that I've had about that date that I didn't even realize that I had anymore, came back up, and it was just a really, really great novel that made me think a lot. A book I can't believe I waited until 2016 to read was Shatter Me by Tahara Mafi. What was I thinking? I should have read this years ago. The next question was my favorite quote, and I literally have no idea. Like, I just don't keep track of quotes that I enjoy. I'm probably going to have to now that this question is on here. Yeah, I literally have no idea. The shortest book that I read this year is Dream House by Marzieh Bezognan. This is 213 pages, and I didn't include like graphic novels and comic books. I literally looked at all of the novels that I read, and this is the shortest one. And the longest one that I read was Game of Thrones by George R. R. Martin, and this is like 840 pages or something crazy like that. The book that shocked me the most is Gemina by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This was like mind blown. My OTP of the year has to be Led and Debbie from the Tokyo Ghost comic series. Nobody can relate to me on this OTP because no one's read Tokyo Ghost, but they're like my everything, and I love them, and the whole 10-book comic series of this just tore my heart out. And if you guys are interested in reading Tokyo Ghost, the bind up trade paperback version is published now, and you guys can pick it up and read it because it is just amazing. It's science fiction and futuristic and dystopian, and it's just so good. And that OTP though, the best non-romantic relationship that I read about this year was Kaylin and the Ocean from The Siren by Kira Cass. And basically the main characters of this book are sirens, and they have this connection to the ocean, and they're drawn to the ocean, and the ocean kind of has like its own personality. In this book, it's like its own character basically, and that non-romantic love between those characters, the sirens and the ocean, is just crazy, and it's so dynamic, and it's different between two humans. Like, I don't know, they're not friends, but they have this love-hate relationship because they are so tied to the ocean, but they love the ocean because it's their home. And it was just a crazy feeling to read this and see that kind of non-romantic relationship with these characters. You really have to read it to understand. That was a really, really good book if you want a non-romantic love book. Favorite book from an author you've read previously? Definitely Heartless by Marissa Meyer, because I read her Lunar Chronicles series. Best book based on a recommendation, and that's going to have to be ACOTAR and ACOMAF, because all of BookTube has been recommending me this for forever, and I finally read it, and it was amazing. My newest fictional crush is probably Led Dent from the Tokyo Ghost series. Best 2016 debut, for me, that's going to have to be The Girl from Everywhere by Heidi Halle. This was amazing. Best world building has to go to The Wrath from the Dawn by Renee Attier. The visualizations that she gives me are so beautiful, and I am a sucker for beautiful visualizations and beautiful writing, descriptive writing about their surroundings and just the way things look, and I need that for my imagination. Like, I have zero imagination, so when an author gives me beautiful descriptions and detailed descriptions and great world building, I'm like, yes, because I need that in my life, and Renee Attier kills it. Book that made me smile the most, and that's gonna have to be Girl with the Lower Back Tattoo. It's so hard for me to say that. Girl with the Lower Back Tattoo by Amy Schumer. Out of 135 books, only 2 of them made me cry, and that is gonna have to be All We Have Left and This Is Where It Ends. hidden gem is Ivory and Bone by Julie Eshba. This is a prehistoric romance, and it was really, really good. And like, no one has read this book on BookTube, you guys. You need to read this book because it's really, really good, and I need to connect with it. I need to connect to somebody about it because I loved this book. A book that crushed my soul, Heartless by Marissa Meyer. Book that's most unique is The Call by Peter O'Goolan, and this was fantastic and just like nothing else I've ever read before, and definitely the most unique. And I mean, I don't even know the words to describe this book. You just have to read it. You just have to read it. The book that made me the most mad, and it doesn't necessarily mean that I didn't like it, is Glass Sword by Victoria Aveyard. And while I wasn't a big fan of Glass Sword, it definitely had me wanting to throw my book across the room because the characters made the dumbest decisions in like all of young adult books. They were just like, oh, it was so frustrating. It was making me so angry. And I really hope that the characters get their act together in King's Cage because they were doing some stupid stuff in Glass Sword. Now we're getting into questions about like our booktubing and or blogging life, and the first one is best non-review / discussion that you did this year. And for me, that's probably gonna have to be my discussion on racial diversity in fantasy. And I really didn't have like, I mean, I have opinions about the topic, but my video was basically about like asking you guys about what your opinion is on racial diversity in fantasy and how I know how important racial diversity can be in books, but when you're in a fantasy world and there's no such thing as, you know, you're not African or Asian, you know, those countries don't exist in a fantasy world. So how important is it, or is it important at all for different races to be portrayed in fantasy novels, or do you have to mention the color of someone's skin at all? So I just basically talked about that. I will link it in the eye here if you guys would like to watch it. The best event I went to is definitely Y'all Fest. I had a blast. I went with my friend Desiree from the Mommy Gamers, and I met so many authors, and it was just so much fun. My most popular post was my December / January book haul, which I posted on like January 12th. I will link that in the eye as well if you would like to check that out. Videos that I'd like to get more love, definitely my live shows that I do with Chloe over the Print Bibliophile. We do a live show at the beginning of every single month about our book of the month that we read for the Once Upon a Read Along. If you guys would like to see which book that we are reading. In December, we're reading Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, and we're going to be talking about that book, and it's always the first Sunday of every month. In January, it's the second Sunday because the first Sunday is New Year's Day, but other than that, it's almost always the first Sunday of every month at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on my channel, so definitely come and set your calendar to have your calendar clear at 6 p.m. on the first Sunday of every month because we do a live show every on those days every single month, and I wish that more people will watch them because we have a lot of fun and we do really in-depth discussions and we really like getting questions from you guys, so definitely check those out. The best bookish discovery I had this year was probably my Kindle Fire. Before I got my Kindle Fire, I was reading all of my books on my phone, and it was just not working out because I did not have the space on my phone to keep all the books that I wanted, and my Kindle Fire is like, I love it so much, and I don't know what I would do without it. Did I complete any of my goals? Not really. I did a video about my 2016 resolutions that I was trying to accomplish, and I'll link it in the eye. The eye is over here, Elizabeth. It's over here. I will link it here in the eye if you guys are interested in watching it. Which book I didn't get to read this year, but I will definitely read in 2017, and that is The Black Key by Amy Ewing. It needs to happen. I have been anticipating this book for so long, and I love the Lone City series by Amy Ewing. I just can't wait for this book. It's out, but I am like 10th in line in my library to get it, and I'm not going to get it until after the new year, which is like a huge bummer, but I really, really, really want to read this book, you guys. Debut you are most anticipating 2017, that's Caraval by Stephanie Garber, I believe is the title, and I've heard some, or is the author, and I've heard some really, really good reviews on this book, so I'm really excited to read it. A series ender or a sequel that you're really excited for me, that's going to have to be Wayfarer by Alexandra Bracken, the sequel to Passenger, but I am looking forward to a lot of sequels in 2017. A goal I want to accomplish in 2017, again, I did a video on all of my goals for 2017. If you want to watch it, it'll be linked down in the description. Everything that I mentioned in this video will be linked down in the description, but I really want to reach 200 books in 2017, so cross my fingers that'll happen. happen. And the last question is a 2017 release that you have already read and loved, and I haven't read any 2017 releases yet, unfortunately. I have some of them from Netgalley, but I just haven't gotten around to reading them yet. The YA Booktube Awards is taking up all of my time, but yeah, so I really don't have anything to recommend to you guys. Let me know if you guys have read a 2017 release and you've loved it in the comments below. I'd really like to know what everyone is already reading that's being released in 2017 so I know what to put on my TBR. Alright guys, that is it for all of the questions. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for coming to this video. Definitely check out my description for all of those links I mentioned and all of my social media and where you can talk to me about books all over the internet. If you want to watch my most recent video, you can click right there. Or if you want to subscribe, you can click right there. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!